Hello, folks. This is Bennett with the Change Your POV podcast. This episode that you're going to listen to today is part one of a two-part series with none other than Christopher Lochhead. He's the host of Legends and Losers podcast, and he's the co-author of Play Bigger, How Pirates, Dreamers, and Innovators Create and Dominate Markets. Now, Christopher is a retired three-time public company CMO and category designer and entrepreneur. After 30 years in business, he mostly retired and sits down with us to talk about some awesome stuff, and I think you're going to love this episode. So take care, have a great day, and happy listening.
You're listening to Change Your POV podcast, episode 203. Christopher Lochhead, this is part one. Are you ready to play bigger?
Christopher Lochhead. Oh, shit, I just fucked that up.
Dude, we could just kill it.
Why don't we just go right from there?
Yeah, just do that. Go for it.
Christopher Lochhead, he was retired three-time CMO.
Jesus
former
Christ, man.
All right.
Just, you know what? We could do the intro and post-production.
Oh, it's true. Let's do that.
Fuck it.
What the
All
fuck
right.
am I doing?
We'll just have a conversation.
Amateur night at the
Trying to get you to
Apollo.
fucking read is like pulling teeth, man.
I am a Marine. I like crayons.
I like
Shut
crayons.
up.
Really quick, before we get into any serious conversation, I was on my way to the dump with my daughter a couple weekends ago, and we were having this debate about, because I own a Prius, right? And we were having this debate about the plural version of Prius. And I swear to God, later that day, I happened to turn on one of your older shows because I was listening to newer ones, and I wanted to go back and check out some of your first shows. And sure as shit, the same day, you had this debate with your host about the plural version of Prius, whether it be Prius or Prii, and I laughed my ass off, and I just thought it was so weird that I just had that conversation. And the thing about it is I never had that conversation with anyone before, and I've had that Prius now for, 5 years, and all of a sudden you bring it up on your show. So I guess the question is, have we ever come up with a definitive answer on the plural version of Prius?
Bennett?
Fuck, I don't know, man.
I think I'm going with Prii.
Okay. All right, Prii it is.
I think Prii is funnier than Priuses.
Prius
and Priuses is like
wicked.
Prius is just right?
Yeah. Right.
And the other thing is I'm a strong advocate for the plural of Elvis because, for example, when you're in Vegas, right, Elvis quickly becomes a plural. And so I'm a huge advocate for Elvi as the plural for Elvis.
That's awesome.
So there's a symmetry between Prii and Elvi for me.
Yes.
Well, because I also heard on one of your episodes, platypi. It's platypus, platypi.
Platypi. Because we didn't want to say platypussies, I guess.
Platypussies. Or asparagus. It was asparagi. But it just sounds fucking weird. So
yeah.
Anyway,
asparagus sounds like something you might do to somebody. The enemy. You might have to give him the old asparagus.
The old asparagus.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes, and
the other thing is, hey, I've been meaning to talk to somebody about this. We have these ads on TV out here for this bank. Okay, and I think it's a Dutch bank. It's definitely a European bank. And in Europe, or in Dutchland, or Holland, or whatever the fuck that country wants to be called, because I think it has 15 different names. But anyway, that's a whole other discussion. This fucking bank is called Rabobank. Okay?
Rabo. Yes.
Oh, that's a dumb idea.
Are you with me on this?
Yeah.
I see these ads on TV for Rabobank, and I'm like, the name of the bank is Rabobank. Are these people fucking insane? Didn't anybody tell them? The company's called Rabobank.
Yeah. That's
they definitely have some weird freaking banks, and like Rabobank.
That's even worse than the fact that many 24-hour fitnesses are not fucking open 24 hours.
Right.
Well, how can that be true?
When they were mass producing the Nova vehicle, they decided to open up a a manufacturing plant in Mexico, and all of a sudden they couldn't figure out why the Nova cars didn't sell well in Mexico, because in Mexican, Nova stands for no go, right?
Yeah, same in Spanish too, I think.
Oh God. Well, I got to tell you, so Christopher, I was introduced to you by my good friend Dwayne France, who was listening to an episode that you were interviewed on with Joseph Sanek on his podcast, Practice of the Practice. And Dwayne, he doesn't pull any punches either. And he's like, because we've got this network of six hosts, right? Multiple shows. And Dwayne, we got a Slack channel we all communicate with. And he goes, dude, everyone stop what you're doing and listen to this episode. And I was like, oh man. Okay. So I did. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm really glad I did. And it was like a 2-parter, and I listened to both of them.
3-parter, actually.
Was it a 3-parter?
3.
Well, I listened to all of them that he put in the Slack channel. And one of them was almost like a combination of the other two. But anyway, listened to all of them. And then I immediately went out and I got your book, Play Bigger. And then I also hooked up the podcast, started listening to Legends and Losers. And I've been hooked ever since, man. You make a lot of sense with a lot of shit that you talk about. And I really wanted to get you on here and kind of pick your brain a little bit. And I know Bennett said we've got some questions to start off with. And one of the first things that I'm really intrigued with this whole concept of creating your own category. And as a veteran and a podcast host, I've been, out of the military since 2005, and it's taken me a long time to get into this comfortable space with that idea of thinking outside the box. And let me explain. And in the military, the way you succeed in the military is by being better. It's not about being different. In the military, being different is it's the fucking end of you to be different.
Death sentence.
It is. So the way to get ahead in the military is to be better at everything. You have the best uniform, have a better room inspection, do better at the promotion board, do better out at the firing range, weapons qualification, everything. Everything is about just being better, and that's how you succeed. And then you're indoctrinated into that concept. And then you get out of the military like I did. I tried to start my own business and lawn care and maintenance. And my mantra was, I find my competition and I just have to do better than they do. And I fucking failed, like miserably, over and over again. And I see veterans all the time, and they can't figure out why they can't be successful just by being better, because it works so well for them in the military and it just doesn't on the outside. I want to talk about that a little bit.
Wow, that's such a powerful dot to connect. But I have to, before we go straight there, which I really want to do, Eddie, I have to thank you for your upfront comments. From the bottom of my heart. It blows me away that a guy like you would say that. So I really thank you so much. And I've said it many times on Legends and Losers and in many other places, but I see a connection between our military and our entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. Because our entrepreneurs build our country, and our military, our law enforcement, and of course our fire service protect our country. And there's a lot of important jobs in our country and in the world for sure. But and you could argue there are a bunch that are equally important. So I don't want to quote Archie Bunker, have anybody misconstrue what I'm saying. But that said, I can't think of anything more important than building and protecting our country. And I have a special place, therefore, in my heart, so to speak, for our veterans who are entrepreneurs. That gets me fired up. So I just want to thank you for all of those wonderful things that you said off the top. Very, very sweet of you. And you said how excited you were to have me here. Well, I am fucking over the top stoked to be here with you guys. Really, it's an absolute thrill. All right, so better versus different. You nailed it, Eddie. And when you're playing inside a constructed game, then, often better is the path. If you want to play in the NBA, you have to be a better basketball player than a whole lot of other people, right? And if I want to fight in the UFC, I got to be a better fighter than a whole lot of other people, et cetera, et cetera. So there's in a game that is, if you will, constructed, which I'm not saying there isn't room for innovation and creativity, and I don't mean that pejoratively. Okay, so I don't want the people who learn to succeed by being better. There's a lot of environments where that's exactly what you need to do. Business isn't one of them, particularly in a market category condition where there's a dominant player, or what you could think of as a category king. And so, I hear a lot of entrepreneurial advice being given out today in the world. And the one I hear the most is hustle. Hustle, hustle, hustle. So Eddie, hey, in the lawn care business, were you hustling?
I was hustling my ass off.
Yeah, well, the reason it failed, Eddie, is you didn't hustle enough. And it makes me want to just smack people who say this bullshit, because it's got nothing to do with hustle. It's got to do with the way categories work.
He was too busy dodging fucking trees falling on his head.
Yeah. So that collapsed. So my business collapsed 2008 and 9 when the economy took a shit and everybody decided they needed to cut their own grass, and then fell back into what I only thought I could do because I didn't understand any of my skills as marketable, because I was a combat arms soldier, and ended up becoming a corrections officer. And I did much better there because, like you kind of pointed out, that construct was such that being better was how I was able to be successful there as well. And so I felt more at home there because the game facilitated that mentality. And then I left there and joined corporate America. And again, being better definitely helped, but it wasn't. That's when I really started to realize that there's politics behind everything too, which was completely shocked the shit out of me to think that not everything was measured off of your merit, and a lot of it had to do with who you knew and who knew you, right?
Yeah, a lot of it is that. A lot of it is, I would argue, category design, or what some people might think of as positioning. In other words, how are you thought of amongst your peers, amongst people broadly in the organization, amongst your superiors? And in particular, are you associated with a skill set that is viewed as highly valuable in the area of solving a big problem that, if we don't ongoingly solve, bad things happen, or if we do ongoingly solve, good things happen? And so the degree to which you're associated with that is the degree to which you're valued inside of a company. And a mistake that a lot of people make is they think their work will stand on its own. And that's the same thing as an entrepreneur thinking, well, hey, I just built the greatest carbidingulator in the fucking world, and as soon as the world sees the carbidingulator, I'm going to be Bill Gates.
Right.
And that's actually not at all how it works. It's the fable that we've been told, and I can tell you why it's the fable, simply because the carbidingulator inventor wants you to believe that. That's actually not what happens. And I'm not devaluing having a great product, or in this case, doing great work. Absolutely. But it's a third of what it takes. And so, the other piece we're talking about is this piece called category. So the three pieces are product, company, and category. We call that the magic triangle. And the companies, and for that matter, the people who are the most successful, prosecute the magic triangle. That is to say, they know what category they are in as defined by what problem they solve. in the case of an individual, they're able to articulate why they're uniquely qualified to solve that problem. That in the case of a business, that would be the business model. And then there's the work, if you're an individual, or the product or the service, if you're a company. So in any case, doing legendary work as an employee in corporate America, in this construct, is a third of what you need to do to be successful.
Yeah. So when we're talking about, positioning yourself within a category, right? A lot of people, they're familiar with categories, but they just want to fit into that category and try to dominate an existing category, where you're talking about being a proponent of creating a category and dominating your own category. And I think so. The more I listen to I say listen to your book because I don't really read. I don't have time to read, but I commute.
I understand.
I got your book on Audible. I would really have loved to hear that book narrated by you, but that's okay. It's
you
cool.
know what? I wanted to. They wouldn't let me.
Really?
Yeah. You want to hear the side story about this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It goes like this. Hey, very smart people at Harper Collins who paid us too much money for this book. I'd really like to read it. Very smart people at Harper Collins say, well, we have a guy in mind to read it. And I say, well, I'd really like to read it. And the very smart people say, we think the guy that's done this 4,372 times before is probably a better candidate than the guy who's done it fucking zero. So we're going to let Sean read the book and you go back to doing whatever crazy fuck shit you do in Santa Cruz there.
It's kind of like, hey, dumbass, why don't you just record the fucking intro later than try to read it fucking flat off the air, dumbass.
But I want to find a way. I don't know how this would work. I want to find a way to do it.
Yeah,
because I can tell you,
because everybody who gets the Audible, who talks to me, well, everybody, I would say at least half the people who get the Audible who talk to me say, what the fuck? How come it's not you on the book?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
at least
I've had this conversation millions of times, is that I am way more apt to buy a book that's narrated by the author than by somebody else. Well,
I could tell you this for sure. I never thought there was going to be a next book, and there is going to be a next book.
Nice.
Hell yes.
And the next fucking book is going to be narrated by me.
Nice. Hell yeah.
So Christopher, I just want to unpack for a second. I kind of, bios are great, but I want to hear from you, like your story, like the Wave Tops story told by you, how you got from point A to here.
I know it starts with shaving nuts, which is my favorite part of the story.
But you know what I mean? It's always good.
That says a lot about you there, Eddie.
Yes, it does. I drive a Prius. You know what sound a Prius makes when it drives by?
Yeah, fucking nothing.
Yay.
I drive a Shelby Cobra Mustang. It makes a different sound.
Yeah.
Well, so how far back do you want to
go? Wherever you want to start from. So, we know you are from up north.
Yeah, the Great White North.
Right. But just kind of give us like your professional bio or whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, okay. So I got thrown out of school at 18 for being stupid. I found out when I was 21 that I'm actually dyslexic, and that actually made my education make some sense to me. And so at the time, I was kind of a struggling musician. I was getting thrown out of school, and my mom, Jackie, worked at the Montreal General Hospital. And so she got me a job. This is where the nut shaving comes in. She got me a job as an orderly at the hospital. And so I was working part-time as an orderly. I was a struggling musician, and I was a failing student. And so I get thrown out of school because it turns out if you get enough D's and F's, they say, hey, you can't come fucking back here anymore, just so you know. And so my choices in life were essentially start a company or shave guys' balls for a living, because I was pretty sure the musician thing wasn't going to go. So those are my choices. And my friend Jack had gotten a job at a very small software company, and the personal computer was just starting to really take off. And he had a belief that turned out to be right, that companies who wanted a lot of help to put these things together and to use them and to train people on them and to build databases and spreadsheets and shit and all that. And so we started a company to do that. And I didn't know shit from Shinola about computers. I mean, nothing. I didn't know how to tie a tie, nothing. But he said, you do the sales and marketing and I'll do the technical shit and maybe we can make this work. And then over time, I taught myself the technology. And so that's how I got started. And I ended up, that company ended up failing. And I was at 21 years old. I'd been married for 3 or 4 months. And that company, we called it Roger Pierce. We named it after we made up a guy.
This is a fucking great story.
Yeah, no, we made up a guy because we thought, who the fuck's going to hire us? I was 18, Jack was 19. So we're like, okay, well, there was this TV show on at the time called Remington Steele. Remember that?
Pierce Brosnan, yeah.
Pierce Brosnan. Well, that's where we got Pierce. And the premise for Remington Steele, if you remember, shows you how times have changed. It was a private investigation agency started and owned by a woman, but she thought nobody would hire her because she was a woman. So she named it after a fake guy, and then she hired a guy to pretend to be that guy.
Right.
And that was the Pierce Brosnan character. But she was actually the person in charge. Anyway, blah, blah, yada, yada. We went, that's a great fucking idea. Let's make up a guy. Roger Pierce or Roger Pierce. Yeah, and they figured he was some 50. Yeah, Roger.
Hey, my name is Roger.
Roger.
It's fucking funny.
Yeah. And so that, collapsed on us because we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. We grew the business great, but we couldn't manage it at all. And it just got away from us. And so I picked up the pieces, and long story longer, I ended up starting a company in Toronto in the very early days of the customer relationship management, Salesforce automation business. And I sold that company to a software company in Silicon Valley in 1996, I think. Almost positive it was 96. And I was 27 going on 28 when that happened. And so I found myself at a very young age being the head of marketing for a publicly traded software company in Silicon Valley. And I ended up doing that 2 more times. So one public company I joined was already public. That was the first one. The second one, I was employee 30-something, and I was the founding CMO for a internet consulting company called Scient in the .com boom days. And we took that company public. This was a company, imagine this, a company that is 3 years old that's public with a $9 billion market cap. And at the time, I was in my early 30s. And then you guys know what happened with the .com bubble bursting. Mm-hmm. And so I took a little bit of time off after that. I started a boutique consultancy and did that for a little while, and then ended up joining a third software company. This one, a bigger one, about a $350 million, $400 million software company, somewhere around that size, already public, a company called Mercury Interactive. And we took that company to about $1 billion in sales. And we ultimately ended up selling the company to Hewlett Packard for $4.5 billion, making HP my favorite company of all time.
Of all time.
And then I retired for the first time. And then I ended up doing some advisory work and some board work. And then I joined up with 2 guys I really respect, the guys who are 2 of the 3 co-authors. And we started a company called Play Bigger, and we were advising mostly Silicon Valley startups on category design. That's what led to the book.
Sorry, go keep.
No. You interrupt me.
Well, one of the things I wanted to ask is why why Silicon Valley? I mean, I understand it's kind of the center of the universe of where you were at the time, but is it because you really like it there, or is it because it's just kind of the center of the universe? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I mean, originally it was absolutely because it was the center of the universe, and of course, I wasn't completely stupid. I knew San Francisco was a beautiful city, and Napa was wonderful, and I'd spent some time in the area. I wouldn't say I knew it super well by any stretch, but I certainly knew, broadly Northern California was a beautiful place. But no, it was. Look, it's the same reason that country singers and songwriters go to Nashville and actors go to Hollywood, right? It was absolutely that. And it was just frankly serendipity that it's a beautiful part of the world.
Right. Gotcha.
And I think obviously too, it's, you're talking about that particular industry. You got to really kind of go where the talent for
sure.
what you're trying to hire is located, right? I mean, I guess you could find equivalent talent in other places, but probably not as much as you would there.
It's hard. A lot of people try to build an argument for why, such and such city is going to be the new Silicon Valley. And it's just not true. When you look at the data, more than 80% of the category kings in the technology business come from a 40-mile radius of Palo Alto. So,
and that's what I'm kind of getting at, is like, I'm just kind of looking at the the demographics and everything with where you're at. And I know that you like to surf. I know that you like all that stuff. And I'm just trying to gather exactly what the attractiveness is, because you hear a lot of people bitch about it, but yet, everyone ends up there. And it comes down to the demographics is basically what you're saying.
Yeah. And a couple, fine points I think might be, so number one, I don't actually live in Silicon Valley anymore. I live in a town called Santa Cruz, which is close to Silicon Valley. And, we're about an hour and a half south of San Francisco, and we're, depending on traffic, half an hour or 45 minutes from San Jose. Traffic around here is not fun. But and I'm right on the ocean. I surf all the time. And so I'm close, but I'm not in it like I used to be in it. And that's very much on purpose. That said, look, for all the bitching, and there's a lot of criticism of Silicon Valley right now. And, a lot of it's warranted, and we could talk about it if you want. I'm certainly not going to defend bad behavior or, bro culture or any of it. But the reality is Silicon Valley is a hotbed of innovation like the world has never seen. Mm-hmm. And it's very fucking exciting, because when you get past all the shit on TV and some of the bad headlines, the reality is we have incredible engineers who wake up every day trying to reimagine what's possible to create a future that is unlikely. And we have incredibly creative marketers who try to figure out how to bring these products to the world and create new categories so that you and I can understand these technologies and why they're important. And we have, the salespeople in our industry are extraordinarily talented. The successful ones are extraordinarily talented. And, we have incredible executives, and the entire ecosystem is interesting. There's the venture capital community is an extraordinary place to spend time. I mean, the amount of CPU power in some of these venture capital firms will blow your head off. Mm-hmm. And so the reality is, when you get to spend time with some of the smartest people in the world in technology and some of the most successful entrepreneurs and funders and builders and advisors to entrepreneurs, and you get to spend, so much time with Stanford and how all that works together, and how the community, kind of the good people in this community support each other. How, it's weird now to have been here for so long to go from being, the youngest guy in the room to the oldest guy in the room. Right. And to go from, the young fighter who was knocking everybody out to the old coach, but that's a very cool cycle to live through. And so the reality is I came here like almost every immigrant who comes here with a very big dream to try to do something in my life and to do something in the world. And when you get to participate in that, that's fucking thrilling shit right there.
Right. It's fucking badass.
And so I've had a miracle life, being able to do that and to play with some incredible technologies and categories and learn from some of the greatest entrepreneurs and innovators of our era. And, it's been fucking awesome. And so it's not, those I think are the real big reasons that a lot of people come here.
Right. The reason I bring this up is because I've got a lot of veterans that are kind of, I guess you could say they just don't want to play with all the bullshit. But what I'm trying to get them to realize is that guys like you that have been through the ringer, like you don't have the college education. You don't have a lot of the shit that the guys from Stanford or the guys that are out there that do these things. I basically what it comes down to is I want guys, veterans like us, even though we have degrees and stuff like that, I want these guys to realize that they can go places and fucking succeed.
Look, big time. And I don't know why we forgot this in our country. I'm somebody that had started with no money, no education, no experience, no relationship.
Rose fucking Pierce, man. For sure.
And so the weird thing is in Silicon Valley, I would say to you, I don't have data, so I'm just going to give you my sort of experience, but easily half the entrepreneurs that I've worked with who have venture capital funded companies are not native born Americans. And I just wonder, like, why is it Americans don't go for it, right? And so to your point, and I'm not suggesting veterans don't go for it, but what I am suggesting is we're at the lowest point in recorded American history in entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. There was a story that, go ahead, Eddie.
No, I was going to say, I think a lot of it has to do, and I know this is true a lot in the veteran community and perhaps outside the veteran community. I just think it's a lot of the mentality of, it seems like in America, is this idea of being entitled to everything. Everybody owes me something. There's free lunches for everyone, and everyone owes me shit, and everything should just come my way. I mean, every time I see somebody on social media pop up on a GoFundMe page for this or that and the other thing, I'm not knocking that. Don't get me wrong, but it just pisses me off that, you know what, you have to fucking work for it. You have to get your damn hands dirty, and you got to bend your back a little bit, and you got to dig in, and you got to work for it.
I think that's right, and I want to underscore the real reason I think that's right. So I can hear it in your voice, Eddie, and you and I are the same on this. I don't like lazy fucks getting shit for free that I have to pay for, right? Yeah. So, and I heard that in your voice, right? Is that what I'm hearing in your voice?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm with you 1,000%, brother. And I don't think that's the biggest tragedy. See, here's what I think the biggest tragedy is. I think the most powerful thing a human being can do is to what, my mother would call make something of themselves.
Novel
right?
Idea, right?
And so, listen, I'm a 49-year-old man, and here's what I know. I know a lot of guys between 45 and 60. And the guys in that range that I know who are good are what I would call real men. They've accomplished shit in their life. They are respected in their chosen field, whatever it is, whether they're carpenters or CEOs, I don't give a shit. But they are respected as a master, as an expert, as a leader, whatever the domain, the context in their chosen field. But they are recognized as good at what they do. They keep their promises. They are good to their word. Their word is their bond. And they live their commitments, and they are good men who can be counted on. The guys that I know that are like that are great. The guys that I know that are not like that are fucked in the head really, really bad. And they're having a very hard time getting unfucked. And the reason for that is when you haven't accomplished some shit in your life, the reason the three of us are here is for millions and millions and millions of years, human DNA, survival of the fittest. We are bred to go through the fire, right? We are bred for struggle. We are bred for growth. We become who we're supposed to be when we test ourselves. And then when we train ourselves to be tested, right? That's why we're here. And so when that is absent from a human being's life, they're kind of fucked up in the head. And so I guess my point is, if you believe sort of the greatest task of being a human being is to become self-actualized, as defined by being all that is possible for each and every one of us, if you believe that's what, it's really about, when we deny ourselves that, we end up getting fucked in the head. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't go for it and you don't give yourself that chance to be, whether it's a legendary carpenter or, the next Jeff Bezos or whatever it is you want to be, I don't care what it is. But when we deny ourselves that struggle and we deny ourselves that self-actualization, the degree to which we do that, I believe, is the degree to which we fuck ourselves up. And I think, simply stated, that's why most lottery winners lose the money within less than a decade, because they didn't fucking earn it.
Right. And that plays really well into actually the title of your podcast, Legends and Losers, because there is never, ever a legend that was ever created without first being a loser or losing along the way multiple times. Hell. Over and over and over again, right? And
continue to, right? Like become legendary and then continue to go for it. Do you guys know who Joe DeCina is?
Oh, yeah. Love Joe.
Yeah, hell yeah. I'd love him.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Right? And so this guy is a legendary guy on Wall Street, makes all this money, retires to Vermont, and then becomes obsessed with these fucking obstacle courses because he's this maniac athlete. Mm-hmm. And he burns his entire life to inches, and then the thing goes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love those stories, right?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Because he was already legendary, retired at a young age, and then went for his new entrepreneurial dream, the Spartan Race Company, and this whole new category, and almost destroyed his net worth, his marriage, his everything, right?
Every fucking thing.
And now he's the mayor of Bonerville.
Right.
But most importantly, because he put himself to the task, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, last year, Eddie and I did the Spartan race at Fenway. That was
Fenway Park.
Oh, did you?
Serious shit.
How was
it? Was awesome.
It was awesome.
Was Joe there?
No, I didn't. I didn't see Joe there. The year before that, though, I had a team of folks that we went up to Killington, Vermont, and did the Spartan race. And actually met Joe. He was there for that one. So it was great. It was funny because we had just got done with the race. We were just walking through the parking lot, and we were just barely walking, kind of limping, and shit was hurting everywhere, and it was miserable.
It sounds terrible.
It was horrible. But it was gratifying to complete it. And he was just walking through the parking lot of the racers that had finished, and we're just walking around like, "Hey, how you doing? How was it?"
Yeah, awesome.
He walked up. He's like, "So," a big old shit-eating grin on his face. He's like, "So, did that suck or what?" I'm like, "Yes, it fucking did suck. Thank you very much."
Yeah,
thank you very much. So, have you ever done a Spartan race, Chris?
I have not. And he tried to. He's got. I think it's going down in December, if I'm not mistaken. He's going on some boat tour thing from, I think it's New York or Maine or somewhere to Iceland. And it sounds like an absolute horror show. Yeah. Imagine a horror show Spartan race on a boat to fucking Iceland. He tried to talk me into doing that. I was like, I think I'd rather have somebody fucking whack me in the nuts with a hockey stick for a week.
Another friend of ours, Ryan Mickler, who runs the Order of Man. I don't know if you know that he did last year.
That's a great podcast, by the way.
Yeah, it is. It is. Ryan's a great guy, a veteran as well. Did the Agoge last year in Vermont, which is 60 plus miles of just fucking hell on earth, basically. So thanks. I'm good. I never ever want to do that shit ever. Nope. So Chris, I love, is it all right if I call you Chris?
Yeah.
All right.
My wife calls me you fucker.
Mine too. Holy shit.
But at the end of the day, I want to put forward that listening to your podcast is great. And you've obviously interviewed a ton of veteran entrepreneurs and whatnot, but Mark Devine, Commander Devine, talk to me about the 2 episodes that you've done with him, and then when you're done, I've actually got a really quick story that's pretty amazing.
Do you know Commander Devine?
I've actually met him. I met him. It was probably a decade ago. I'm sure he doesn't remember, but either way, he's a SEAL. I was a reconnaissance Marine. We met each other in passing, but regardless, great guy, just a legend in the SEAL community, among other things. But great episodes. Two now. 2, yeah. So it's so awesome. So I don't pretend to be some kind of a journalist. I don't pretend to be anything I'm not, right? So when I got a full-on man crush on someone, like I'm going to be a fanboy, right? So like I'm not confused who the guy is, right? So I think he's fucking awesome. And so yeah, we did 1 episode, and there was just so much more we wanted to get into. And I was lucky enough that a couple months after that, I was in San Diego, where SEAL Fit, where he is, right? And
I was doing a speech on category design and entrepreneurship and all the good stuff. And so I said to him, hey, listen, I know it's imposing, but I'm going to impose. I would love to come down early and shoot a follow-up with you, because we kind of weren't done. And I said, I also like to bring my producer and a buddy of mine, and we'd also like you to train us in I forget now what the SEALs call it, but it's their version of Krav Maga.
Scars.
Do some scars. Thank you. Give us some scars training. So the commander says, all right, asshole, what the hell? So that's what we did. And so that's what happened. Over the 2 episodes, I got to know him and obviously spent time with him in person. And, I love his podcast, loved his book, Unbeatable Mind. The podcast is called Unbeatable Mind as well. I think it's a must subscribe.
For sure.
Because, he's got so many great people he brings on. He talks about some military stuff. He talks about some fitness stuff, a lot of fitness stuff. It's very broad. And, he did a couple things on the episodes that really were amazing. On the first one, he talks a lot about martial arts and kind of the spiritual side and the mental side. He talks about how when he was going into BUD/S, do you remember this story?
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
And so, I think that's all very, very cool. He talks about, how Navy SEALs meditate, he sort of teaches you how to meditate like a Navy SEAL.
In the fucking water.
Yeah.
Right. It's just crazy, Tim. So
then just one other thing about him, and I think I said this on the 2nd episode, but it would be very easy for him to play a character. like to be a movie character, because he looks exactly like what the fuck he is. He's not a huge guy, you know. No. I'm 6 feet 190, and I have a photo of the two of us together. He's got his fingers over my ears. I can send it to you guys. It's pretty funny. I'm holding his book, he's holding mine, but he's got his fingers over my ears making fun of me. It's great. And so you can see the two of us together. You know, I'm 6 feet 190. He's about my size. I don't know. His body fat percentage would be a lot different, I tell you that much. But and I wouldn't want to fight the fucker. Oof, it would be a short, horrible ending. But my big point on him as a person, at least as I've gotten to experience him, is it'd be very easy for him to play some kind of a Rambo-y kind of a character.
Rambo-y. Love it.
Yeah.
Rambo-y. Right. Hell yeah.
And he is the opposite. He is warm. He is modest. He is humble. He's welcoming. There's nothing about him where he tries to like impose himself on. There's no ego thing going on, you know. So a lot. You could imagine a guy like him might be kind of a puff up kind of a guy. I'm the man and you're the piece of shit, you know, whatever. None of that. He's the opposite of that. He's a yoga master, you know. He's got this huge spiritual side. He's this incredibly deep martial artist. He's an incredibly thoughtful guy. On our second episode, we get into why executives should be sheepdogs.
Yes.
It's a very, very powerful, I thought, very powerful conversation. But he's very inviting in these things. He's not barking at you. And so he's this incredible juxtaposition because he's this elite warrior, obviously man that did and was willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. And yet he's this humble, warm, and he talks about it. It sounds corny, but he's monk-esque. So yeah, he's a monk warrior.
Yeah,
that's the perfect segue into what I'm bringing up. So The Unbeatable Mind as a book, just an amazing piece of work, right? So
outstanding.
So he talks about his time in New York City, right, with his martial arts and the whole thing. Well, he talks about what is it called, Eddie?
Yeah.
The Zen monastery up there in Woodstock, right?
The Zen Mountain Monastery.
Mountain Monastery in Woodstock. So I'm listening to this book, Unbeatable Mind, and he's talking about how he spends like every freaking weekend, up there. So I get this harebrained idea because I live in New York. Eddie lives in New Hampshire. We should meet.
Let's go.
Let's fucking go. So let's meet there, right? The Zen Mountain Monastery. So it's me, Eddie, and another buddy of ours, Andrew McDowell, who actually is one of the hosts of one of our other shows, Neophyte in the Woods. We decide to meet at the Zen Mountain Monastery to just like have a day of
we have no fucking idea what's coming.
We're gonna do some Commander Divine shit here.
Right.
Some Zen Mountain shit, right?
Yeah. Navy SEAL Zen shit right here.
We're gonna get.
Yes, we're here for the Navy SEAL Zen program, please.
Right. That's what we thought, right?
$49 for the afternoon.
$37.95, please, folks. And here's what it is. So we show up. And what episode is it, Eddie? Do you remember?
I'll send you the episode. You got to listen to it. You will not you will not fucking believe it.
Yeah, no, I have to now.
Oh my God!
Shit yourself.
Have you sent it to Commander Divine? Has he heard it?
No, but we actually will. Oh my God!
Because you went there because of him, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. We went there because of him.
So hold on.
What happened?
Well, I never been to anything like this before. So we all show up in different cars. And we all meet like in the parking lot and shit. And here, Bennett.
How many guys?
Just the three of us.
Okay.
And we show up, and we're gonna do like a service, whatever they call it. I don't even know.
It's like a Zen
thing, right? We're doing this thing.
We're praying. We're doing the whole thing.
Right. And I've never done any shit like this before, right?
But we're doing it to expand our fucking minds, right?
Right. Self-actualization. We're trying to, and so Bennett. He gets out of his car and he's got He's got the brightest Syracuse orange long sleeve fucking shirt on.
Oh,
right?
God.
It says
Perfect.
veterans. It says real veterans wear orange.
Yeah. Excellent.
Right.
Perfect.
Perfect. Beautiful.
Monastery
Right.
wear.
Monastery wear. Right.
Well,
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Look at like the Dalai Lama. This fucking guy's wearing like saffron yellow shit. And all
Yeah. I'm just going to pour myself some scotch. If you're going to have some scotch, then so am I.
Look at this.
That looks like Doers.
That is Doers, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna do the. This is.
You're gonna do that. Ah, look at you.
This is a local Santa Cruz. It's called Wayward.
Wayward.
And for the amount I talk about this shit on the air, they could give me a couple of free ones if they're listening.
So
you get there. You're there for the $39.95 Navy SEAL Zen seminar.
Right.
Yeah,
but it's nothing like that. But anyway,
of course.
You want to finish, Eddie?
Yeah. So we walk in there, and we happen to show up on the day they do what's called a Dharma encounter, and I have no fucking clue.
Oh, this sounds great.
I have no idea what that even means, but I'm here to tell you, it was something else. What's really cool.
Some scary shit.
Did you learn how to meditate like a Navy SEAL underwater?
Yes. Oh, yes. We were singing, chanting, meditating, the whole 9 yards. It was quite the experience, I'll have to say. But it was, Bennett was trying to talk me into opening my mind and taking some, we were experimenting with flotation. We were doing we've
done flotation therapy and a bunch of different.
Yeah, man.
We're just trying to expand our reality here.
Yeah, there you go.
So we get there, and literally Eddie. So we get into the height of this whole thing, and Andrew and I are sitting next to each other, but Eddie's down the
they fucking
aisle.
Leave me alone.
Right.
Eddie's
down the aisle a little bit, and he fucking looks over at me with this oh shit, what the fuck is happening? Look at me, and I'm like, I don't fucking know, man. And it was horrific. I mean, it was cool. It was good to experience, but damn.
It wasn't the 3-hour Navy SEALs in seminar.
Sure it's one of those things. So the funniest thing, so we get there, and it's in. See, here's the problem with the Zen Mountain Monastery. It's in fucking Woodstock. So you're it's such a duality of
Woodstock, New York, right?
Yes,
not Woodstock, Vermont. Yeah, no, Woodstock, New York. Yeah,
Woodstock, New York. So you're holy shit! You literally drive from literally people are smoking bowls on the freaking street to this Zen. Wow, all we wear is earth colors, and I show up in this bright orange shit.
Yeah,
and it was a mess, but
they were awesome to you, weren't they?
They were very awesome to
absolutely.
Us. It was very enlightening.
They couldn't have been nicer, right?
No,
right.
So cool. It was really cool.
Enlightening is probably the best word. Yeah,
enlightening. And after all was said and done, I'm glad we went. We definitely learned a lot.
Well, see, you're better people for that now, aren't you?
Absolutely, for sure.
And you have this psychic bro connection to Commander Divine now.
Yes. So, but he doesn't know about it yet. So,
so you got to send him the episode.
I totally.
There's no way he won't love it. He's gonna love it. I mean, you went there for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we did.
He's a very cool guy. He'll get a kick out of this for sure. He will. There's no chance he won't think that's cool.
So
I mean, he's not my best friend or anything. But I'd be stunned if he didn't think that was awesome.
Right. So other veterans you've interviewed, JLD, John Lee Dumas.
Yeah, they
intense,
one of the most successful podcasters in the world, right?
For sure, right?
Yeah, and what I love about JLD is his story is so inspiring. Right?
Wicked inspiring, like ridiculous.
Yeah, and look, he's the first to admit, he was thrashing around until he sort of found podcasting and got his formula down and
tried the financial sector, the whole thing, and then the next thing you know, boom, he's like, boom, everyday show, 5 days a week. I'm gonna rock it out. And that's how it is. Boom.
And he's got his shtick, and it's fun, and the audience is kind of with him, and he's got his lingo, and he's
these 30-minute episodes. That's all.
Yeah, he's like he's the 5-hour energy of podcasts.
Yeah.
He's like
I love it.
He's like a triple espresso or something.
Right. So he kind of, without realizing it, he kind of created his own. He became the category king for that, right? And
I actually said to him on the show, I said, "Hey, you're an intuitive category designer,"
right?
Because he created this whole category of daily entrepreneur show, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if he was the first, but he would have been very early. He puts his revenue. You guys know the whole thing, right?
Oh, yeah,
so his whole thing is transparent. So he's sort of he's Truman showing his business.
Yes, he's completely transparent, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a fascinating thing, and I think a lot of his listeners are solopreneurs or smaller businesses like that, and he is too. And so he's the Pied Piper of that shit.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
And I think he's really cool. Yeah, I think he's really cool. And look, he had me on his show, and he came on Legends and Losers, and that's fucking cool. The guy's one of the biggest podcasters in the world. So
the funniest thing that I found about your episode with him is that his episode was limited to half an hour, because that's what he does. He rolls with a half an hour, and that's like his boop, 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 boop. That's it.
Well, I mean,
but then literally the next episode, Chris, that you do on Legends and Losers is like a 2.5 hour episode. So it's just funny how like, you know what I mean? You kind of fit in what you do. And then the last guy I want to really talk about with you is General McChrystal. What an amazing individual that guy is.